Imagine a world lit by candlelight, where faith and fear shaped every aspect of life. In the Middle Ages, discipline was not just a private matter, but a public spectacle, a religious duty, and a tool for social control. From the cold stone floors of a monastery to the heart of the family home, the rod was seen as an essential instrument for shaping the soul. The belief was simple and severe: to spare the rod was to endanger a child's eternal salvation. This was an era where pain was considered a direct path to piety, and a public flogging could be a form of redemption. This video explores the methods, the tools, and the unyielding philosophy behind punishment in a time when discipline was a sacred and often brutal obligation. In the Middle Ages, corporal punishment was a deeply integrated part of society, and applied to adults and children alike in religious, domestic, and judicial settings. It was not the chaotic, arbitrary violence often imagined. Instead, it was a highly regulated system, justified by religious doctrine and social philosophy. The core belief was that physical pain was necessary to correct sin, purify the soul, and maintain order. For children, this meant discipline at home and in school. For adults, it ranged from public humiliation for minor crimes to brutal floggings for more serious offenses. The tools were varied: the birch rod, the whip, the cat-o'-nine-tails. But the goal was consistent: to use the body as a vessel for teaching obedience, morality, and respect for authority, both earthly and divine. This approach was not seen as cruel, but as a necessary, even compassionate way to guide souls away from damnation. The foundation of medieval discipline was rooted in the Bible, particularly the Old Testament. The most influential verse came from the book of Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 24. "He that spareth his rod hateth his son, but he that loveth him chasteneth him betimes." This was interpreted literally. The rod was not a metaphor for guidance, it was a physical tool for correction. Medieval theologians and educators believed that a child's will was inherently sinful and needed to be broken through physical discipline. Sparing the rod was seen as a form of parental neglect, an act that damned a child's soul to eternal punishment. This belief gave parents, priests, and masters not just the right, but the religious duty to use corporal punishment. And it was framed as an act of love, a painful but necessary measure to save a child from a far worse fate. Other proverbs reinforced this, creating a powerful theological mandate for physical discipline that permeated every level of society. Within the medieval household, parental authority was absolute. Children were expected to be obedient, and physical punishment was the primary method of enforcement. The birch rod was a common tool, a bundle of twigs bound together to deliver sharp, stinging blows to the bare buttocks. This was not typically done in a fit of rage, but as a formal, almost ritualistic act. The child would be told of their transgression, made to bend over a parent's knee or a piece of furniture, and administered a set number of strokes. And the goal was not just to cause pain, but to instill a sense of shame and a clear memory of the wrongdoing. This practice was considered a normal and essential part of raising a moral, God-fearing child in a harsh and unforgiving world. The severity could vary greatly depending on the family's social status and the perceived gravity of the child's offense, but the underlying principle remained the same: obedience was paramount. For the few children who received a formal education, discipline was even more structured and severe. Monasteries, which served as the main centers of learning, were governed by strict rules, such as the Rule of St. Benedict. This rule explicitly prescribed corporal punishment for monks who erred, and this was extended to the young boys, oblates, or children dedicated to the monastery, given to the monastery for education. Monastic teachers believed that pain was an aid to memory and a cure for idleness. A boy who failed to learn his Latin declensions or who was caught talking during prayers could expect a swift flogging. The instrument of choice was often the birch or a leather strap. Records from the era show that these punishments were carefully regimented. Writers like Vincent of Beauvais argued that beatings should be proportional to the offense, preceded by a formal warning, and carried out before an audience to maximize the lesson. It was a cold, methodical approach to education, where knowledge was literally beaten into the student. This system was designed to produce not just scholars, but disciplined, obedient servants of God. A peculiar and often misunderstood aspect of medieval and early modern discipline was the concept of the whipping boy. In theory, a young prince or king could not be physically punished by his tutor, as his royal person was considered sacred and untouchable. To solve this, a boy of noble birth would be educated alongside the prince. When the prince misbehaved, the whipping boy would be punished in his place. The idea was that the prince, witnessing the suffering of his friend, would feel remorse and be motivated to behave better. While the practice is famous in popular culture, its actual prevalence is debated by historians. Some accounts suggest it was a real, if rare, phenomenon, highlighting the extreme lengths to which the concept of royal sanctity was taken. It remains a fascinating, if perhaps exaggerated, example of the intricate rules surrounding discipline in the medieval world. Outside of the home and the church, corporal punishment was a key tool for maintaining order in the workplace. Apprentices and servants were legally bound to their masters, who held the right to discipline them. A master could punish an apprentice for laziness, disobedience, or shoddy work. While the law expected this punishment to be proportionate, the line between discipline and abuse was often blurred. An apprentice might be beaten with a rod, a strap, or whatever tool was at hand. This authority reinforced the strict social hierarchy of the time, where a master's control over his household, including his apprentices and servants, was nearly absolute. The physical punishment served as a constant reminder of one's place in the social order. For many young people, this form of discipline was an inescapable part of their working lives, a daily reality of their subordinate status. For minor crimes committed by the general populace, public humiliation was a common sentence. The stocks and the pillory were fixtures in most medieval towns. A person found guilty of offenses like petty theft, public drunkenness, or selling spoiled goods would be locked into these wooden frames, their head, hands, or feet restrained. They were left for hours, sometimes days, at the mercy of the public, who were free to jeer, spit, or throw rotten food at them. For more serious but still relatively minor crimes, public flogging was used. The offender would be tied to a whipping post in the town square and lashed on the bare back with a whip or cat-o'-nine-tails. This was punishment as public theater, and designed to deter others and reinforce the authority of the law in a very visible and painful way. The shame of the punishment was often considered as potent as the physical pain itself. In a fascinating and extreme manifestation of medieval religious belief, some took to corporal punishment willingly. The flagellants were religious zealots who practiced self-flogging in public as a form of penance and devotion. They would march from town to town, whipping themselves with leather scourges, often embedded with sharp pieces of metal. They believed that by imitating the suffering of Christ, they could atone for their sins and the sins of society. These processions were particularly common during times of crisis, such as the Black Death, when people believed that such extreme acts of piety might appease a wrathful God. While the Church initially tolerated the movement, it was eventually condemned as heretical as the flagellants began to challenge the authority of the clergy. Their existence, however, shows how deeply the concepts of pain, punishment, and piety were intertwined in the medieval mind. The medieval approach to punishment reveals a worldview where physical suffering was seen as a legitimate, even necessary tool for moral and social instruction. The line between discipline and brutality was thin, and the system was built on a foundation of fear and absolute authority. While modern society has largely rejected these methods, the ideas behind them, that pain teaches lessons and that fear ensures obedience, have had a long and lasting legacy. Studying this history forces us to confront how societies have justified violence in the name of order, and how our own definitions of discipline continue to evolve. The echoes of the medieval rod can still be found in debates about corporal punishment today, a testament to the enduring power of these historical beliefs. What do you think about the medieval philosophy of punishment? Share your thoughts in the comments below. If you'd like to learn more about punishment worldwide and throughout the ages, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos.